Rewriting Ragnarok Part 9. Welcome back to the 9th installment of the God of War Ragnarok Rewrite series, where I alter both the story and the gameplay into the ultimate what-if scenario. I really don't have anything to say about this one other than I hope you enjoy. Oh, and also part 10 will be the next guaranteed video to come out on this channel, so take a look out for that. But without further ado, let us begin. Starting this off, there really isn't any gameplay changes like that, but I would like to make a quick update to the spear delay combo I created in part 8. To make it a little more different from the Shatter Star Shield counter, not only will this delayed attack parry whoever's in front of you, but the wide swinging of Kratos' spear will parry everyone within his vicinity. This allows you to punish enemies trying to sneak up behind you and hit you at your blind spot. There will also be another addition to this attack. If you were to hold R1 instead of simply pressing it, Kratos will do the spinning animation, but this time, instead of finishing it off with a slash, he will hold the spear up, allowing it to glow, and then he will slam it onto the ground. This causes a massive shockwave, which will knock everyone back. There will also be a retreating R2 attack for the spear, but all he does is step back and throws the spear. In that, we'll have to do it for the gameplay changes. Let us proceed onto the story. Previously, on part 8, Garm was rescued and Fenrir was revived. But then, they get a special visit by Freya, asking for their help. Freya looks at the two and says, "Gentlemen, how would you like to start Ragnarok?" Atreus looks as he is about to say something until Kratos says, "We will not aid you in any war." Freya then responds saying, "Oh, so I guess my sister's blood on your hands was enough for you." "That was never what I wanted." Freya and Kratos both look at each other with high tension and disgust. But then Freya will say, "We're not actually starting a war. I mean, as much as I hate Odin and would love to do that, I can't. But my realm is out of balance. And you two are apparently the last living non-Aesir warriors, according to Brock. So Brock sent you." They suddenly hear Brock say, "Yes, I did." The three of them look over to see Brock walking up to them, followed by Tyr holding Mimir. Brock says, "You go and play cleanup and you'll be square with the Vanir folk. Also gets the all fuckers' fingers off which it don't belong." Atreus looks at a still considering Kratos and says, "It's not like we have much of a plan. I think we should do it." Freya goes face to face with Kratos. Brock here says, "You used to know Freya." Kratos responds, "She was our friend." I find that hard to believe, so prove it. Kratos agrees to tag along and help Freya, but says that they will leave the realm once they are done. Freya says that is completely fine by him. Kratos walks over to Tyr to retrieve the head of Mimir, who wishes to have a slightly more pleasant trip to Vanaheim this time. Freya hears Mimir's voice and immediately shows his hate towards him, just like the original. Tyr looks down at Kratos and says, "I'll be joining you too. Try to help in any way I can." Kratos tells him very well, but then Freya looks at Tyr and says, "For a moment, I thought I was going crazy. You're alive? And on our side? This is even better." But then Brock tells them to hurry up and let's get going. Atreus asks Freya what is it he needs help with, but he says he'll tell them when they get there. Our characters step foot inside of Vanaheim for the second time. Tyr is immediately mesmerized by its beauty, saying that he already feels more calm and at peace. Freya points to the sky. "Everyone look up. Tell me what you see." They look to see a beautiful night sky full of stars. Atreus says, "It's beautiful, but where's the moon? Is it gone?" "Not gone. It's still up there, but you can't see it. Our celestial king, Mani, is supposed to give it light, but he's been taken." "Mani being stolen?" "It's just like what it said." Freya asks what is he talking about, and Atreus tells him about the prophecy that they saw. Freya says, "Did this prophecy of yours happen to say where Mani was taken?" It kind of left that out." "Well, that's our first problem. I sent my team out on a search mission to discover where he was taken. We'll meet up with him, but for now, we head to base. As they navigate through the jungles of Vanaheim, they will encounter one of the realm tears that Garm left. It will only spawn a few basic enemies that you will easily be able to deal with. After the realm tear shrinks and the enemies stop coming, Freya will then say, "Yeah, those just started popping up. Best to be careful." Mimir tells him how Garm was freed and also says how Kratos and Atreus worked together to stop that destruction. Atreus asks Freyr, is there any way to close these realm tears for good? Freyr says, well, I can't, but I think my sister knew how. Atreus says, so where is Freya? Well, there goes our next problem. Freya left. Why would she leave you? You're her brother. I guess she hates me as much as she hates you. They all walk through the jungle until Freyr sees a wall of bushes. Freyr opens the bushes and sees nothing but sky and says, well shit, we're on the wrong island. Oh, I forgot. Everything is in the sky here. Almost everything. I'm going to assume that not everyone here can fly, so we're going to use this to get across. Freyr reaches inside of one of his pockets to get something, but before he's able to grab it, the entire ground shakes and rumbles. Everyone looks around and wonders what's happening. Freyr steps back and looks up to see golden sparkles drawing themselves in the sky and falling down like glitter. Freyr says, oh, never mind. What's happening? All of the islands are coming together. That would have been convenient our first time here. It's all becoming one land again. One land again? So it was like this before. Aye. Vanaheim was originally on the ground like the other realms. It was only until Njord separated the main lands and sent them all to the sky. Do me a favor, Mimir. Don't ever mention that old bastard again. I don't need a history lesson. I was only telling the lad. They hear an enormous thud, which lets them know that all of the islands have combined into one land. Now Vanaheim is almost identical to the original game. Freyr tells them not to get used to this. At random times, the islands combine and separate. When he opens the wall of bushes again, he will see more jungle instead of sky. When they reach Freyr's camp, his entire team will be gone, except for Lunda and Brock. Freyr walks off and tells everyone to get ready before they head out and join the rest of his team in the search of Mani. At this point, you'll have a moment to upgrade your gear, and Brock introduces Lunda to you. Once you're ready, everyone will begin to walk out of the camp. But before you can even walk out, Kratos will suddenly be wrapped around by a bunch of vines and yanked towards the nearest tree. The vines pin him against it. Kratos looks up and sees a bird in the sky which dives towards him and transforms into Freya, who holds her sword to Kratos' neck. The malice and hatred never left. She says, you shouldn't have come back. Everyone runs towards the two, surrounding them from a distance. Freya runs up to them and goes, whoa, 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 Freya, wait, just hold on a second. Freya turns towards her brother and yells, you bring these people here, Yngvi? After what he's done? This isn't what it looks like. It's only temporary. How could you think of yourself as a leader when you are siding with an enemy? Look, I had no choice, okay? The moon is gone, your ex is everywhere. You've seen what I'm working with here, it's not much. No, he still has to pay for what he's taken from me. She turns her attention back to Kratos, but Freyr continues. Boulder, right? You know I know what it's like to lose a son. Don't you dare compare that to this. You never cared for yours as I did mine. Atreus tries to plead with Freya, saying, Freya, listen, we're only here to help with the realm. After that, we'll leave. Please, you don't have to do this. He's right. We don't want any trouble. All of these cries and pleads fall on deaf ears. But then Kratos speaks. Freya, this will not be like last time. I will not fight you. If you still seek revenge, you may have it. What? No, you can't. Atreus lifts up his bow. Atreus! Remember our agreement. Remember who you are. Help these people. Help the realms. Kratos turns his attention back to Freya. I could never make up for what I've done, but I promise you this. Your pain and your suffering
My death cannot take that away. Here is where we'll have Freya turn away to have her think and breathe heavily until she turns back and yells. When she does this, the vines will release Kratos, causing him to fall over. Freya tells him that he has more use to her alive. Kratos asks what does she want, and she says she will not be bound to two realms and that they have to reach her remaining roots in order to free her of Odin's curse. Kratos, just like in the original, agrees. Freyr, being relieved by this peaceful conclusion, tells them that they can all head out together and separate once their paths divide.
But he tells Brock to lead them the way because he has to stay back at camp and handle some business.
The beginning sections of Vanaheim 2 will have Kratos, Mimir, Brock, and Freya have their same conversations that they had in the original game when you first traveled to Vanaheim, with Mimir defending Kratos, saying he's not the reason for Freya's suffering, and Brock sharing his personal experiences of having beef with his brother.
Freya, just like in the original, is not having none of that.
Tyr also says how it's nice to see Frigg. She says not to call her that, just like in the original, but in the rewrite,
she will not be happy to see him at all.
Tyr tries to preach the way of peace to Freya, but backs off when he realizes it's making her even more angry than she already is.
Tyr then moves on to a more important topic in his eyes, sharing his doubts for their chances of success for this mission. He says that Freyr, the leader, does not seem focused, and despite the extra help that they are bringing, their numbers still pale in comparison of Odin's forces. Claiming to not want to see any of them die, he urges them to consider to retreat tactically and come up with a new strategy. Atreus tells Tyr not a chance, and that they have to save the moon, and that they can't allow Vanaheim to suffer any longer.
The gameplay sections you go through while all of this is taking place will consist of the levels you play through in the original right before you encounter Heimdall. Gameplay wise, these sections are unchanged, except there will be no daylight savings puzzles because of the rewrite's unique circumstances. The changes will only start when you reach Freya's birthplace, for that is not the place they will end up at all. Instead, they enter a different area entirely. The area you encounter will be a wide field full of bushes which comes up to the waist of Kratos. Brock complains about not being able to see. Surrounding this massive field will be large trees, and in the front of them you can see a couple of statues with the vegetation and moss grown over them. There are a total of 5 which can only be halfway seen due to the bushes, each of them having a large shield in a similar design and color scheme as the bells you find within Vanaheim. In this area, numerous dogs will try to attack you since they are low to the ground. You can't see them because of the bushes. These hounds will try to use stealth to their advantage. However, you'll be able to hear and see the bushes moving when they try to attack. Some Einherjar will also be sprinkled in the mix. After you deal with the field dogs, Mimir will comment on how he senses a weird energy around this place. Freya will say that it's because this place was once a very sacred and spiritual area for practices of the Vanir, but was lost and forgotten over time. Brock takes Atreus, Mimir, and Tyr off to search for Mani, wishing them good luck, while Kratos and Freya search for the remaining roots. This is the part where Kratos and Freya finally work through all of the troubles between them, just like in the original. Their conversations will pretty much be unchanged. Kratos will also start by sharing his relationship that he had with his brother Deimos. Freya, of course, is initially not having none of that, but over time, as Kratos goes in deeper, she realizes that they're more relatable than she ever thought. While they travel, Freya will say how she already knows that Nidhogg was guarding her roots, and she will also explain how she was able to free the one for Vanaheim. She was able to link up with one of her Valkyries who helped her navigate through Vanaheim while she was still limited to her bird form. They were able to find the location of the roots, but when Nidhogg was activated, the Valkyrie had to face her all by herself. While the Valkyrie fights bravely and Nidhogg takes her to the very last inch of her life, Freya just barely manages to free her Vanaheim root in time to help her. But once she does, Nidhogg is able to escape, taking the roots with her, making them start their search all over again. Freya will say that this Valkyrie's name was Gull. The gameplay section during this character development will be identical to the beginning part of Vanaheim 2, which in the original you play through with Atreus. So instead of fighting an ancient here, you'll fight centaurs and wisp in the nighttime, instead of the day.
Whenever you're engaged in combat, Freya will do very little to help you, only attacking those who got in her way. After you finish the centaur encounter in the dogs, you will crawl underneath to fight the wyverns in Einhjar you fight right before you retrieve the moon in the original.
After this encounter, you'll end up on the same path that will lead you towards the wide arena where they tried to ambush Kratos and Atreus in the original. After that, they'll follow a path that will lead to Freya's childhood village, which she will be sentimental about.
Kratos, just like in the original, tells Freya to be happy to have a home she remembers fondly. From here moving forward, the rest of the level with these two will be the same. The only difference will be that the Fiske mini-boss will have a different weapon and a different name. Other than that, everything will be unchanged all the way up until they reach the birthplace of the goddess.
Here is where we'll have the good old-fashioned Nidhogg boss fight. This fight will only have 2 minor changes. Since Freya isn't in her bird form, she will immediately be ready to fight. In the first section of the fight, there will be little to no teamwork between the two. You'll get her health low enough and Nidhogg will try to eat Kratos, but he is able to hold the mouth down. Freya decides to lock in, jumping onto its head and stabbing it relentlessly. The rest of the boss fight is the same. Nidhogg throws everything she has while you do some sigil magic with Freya. You'll also be able to hop over certain attacks and do air combos as well. Do so at your own risk because you can still get punished. Nidhogg will see that her health bar is suddenly deleted. She tries to run away but is stopped by the 2 gods and is sadly decapitated.
Thank you, Odin, for forcing our protagonist into animal cruelty.
Freya goes to the roots, desperately ripping them apart until she is finally free. This scene, also unchanged. Kratos asks Freya what she wants to do from here on, and she decides to focus on her revenge against Odin.
Now, with setting her hatred aside, she decides to first deal with her brother, then after that help the rest of the team secure Mani. Everything heading back to Freyr's camp will be the same, except for one minor change. They go to the same cliffside of the original, where Freya learns that Skoll and Hati are still in Vanaheim, but instead of seeing them changing the daylight cycle in the sky, they will see them on the ground, sleeping alongside them. And just like in the original, Freya will be inspired by seeing the wolves, believing that there is still something left to fight for. When they return to Freyr's camp, the only person they'll see is Freyr, sitting by the campfire laughing to himself. He sees his sister happy for her to be back, wanting her to reclaim the throne and rebuild. Freya tells him that she's only going to rescue Mani, after that she's leaving. Freyr will have a problem with this, and this will lead to their argument just like in the original. They then reflect on everything they've been through to have that bonding moment. Freya still decides to leave, and her brother will respect this decision. Brock will then come in to shut all of this dramatic shit down while holding Mimir. He goes to his workbench to square a few things with our characters,
such as collecting heads and bow upgrades. Then he lets them know how the search is going. He tells them that Freyr's group was able to successfully discover Mani's whereabouts
and that they are waiting for Freyr in order to engage. Brock tells Freyr especially that he might want to hurry up because the morale of his team is very low, mainly being due to Tyr's fears and doubts rubbing off on everyone.
This is when they form the plan for the freedom fighters to be a distraction while Kratos and Freya flank the main forces. Freyr will head out ahead of them in order to inform them on this new plan. Soon after, they both do the same.
Right at the moment they begin to head out, they will hear a world-shaking howl from the wolves in the distance, followed by a few barks. Freya, in the confusion, says, "Skoll and Hati are awake? That doesn't make any sense. There's still no moon in the sky."
Mimir responds by saying, "Something or someone must have woken them up."
Kratos suggests that they should go check on them, but Freya says that they should just focus on the mission for now.
You will travel the same route you take in the original before you face Heimdall once again, but this time, Kratos and Freya will find that there are a few traps in place for them.
You will notice that all of the plant traps that you had to deal with the last time going through this area will be gone, replaced with some booby traps. Walking past a certain area will trigger a hidden trap to shoot shock arrows out at you. Getting shot by one of these will deal damage and temporarily immobilize Kratos. Spam circle to have Kratos snap the arrow off of his body. Just like before, there is no need for daylight manipulation at this time. Kratos, Freya, and Mimir comment on the trap set in place for them, thinking of Asgard, throwing everything they can at them.
They also hope that the rest of the group aren't having too much trouble with these traps. In the cliffside encounter, the air tunnels that you could use will also be booby trapped. If you or an enemy gets caught in one, the air will heat up and blow up in your face, causing you to slam back onto the ground. The rest of the path is the same, the only difference being the order and number of enemies that you fight. You will soon reach the same open area with the tall bushes from last time. This is where Freya will let off her signal in the sky to the rest of the group, but this time, they hear what seems to be shackles. They look far off to see Skull and Hati in the distance, completely still. The very moment Freya asks what are they doing here, they notice that each of the surrounding statues will illuminate a purple glow in their eyes. The statues cause the entire area to have a purple hue. Kratos, Freya, and Mimir begin to feel immense pain, all three of them yelling as if the very life is being drained from their bodies. Kratos manages to rise from the ground and just barely throws his axe at one of the head of the statues, shattering it. This makes the purple hue go away, and the rest of the eyes stop glowing. Kratos looks over to Freya, who is still on the ground, breathing heavily. He says, "What was that?" "I don't know." "Neither do I. But for a moment there, I thought that was gonna be it." Kratos then suddenly lifts his shield upward to block an incoming spearhead, which quickly disappears after impact. He then looks up and sees Voli sitting on top of one of the tree branches. Freya is able to stand back up and draws her bow in his direction. Voli, who looks extremely disappointed, says, "Damn, I was really hoping that would kill you." Kratos raises himself as Voli falls off the tree branch and onto the ground. Freya, realizing who that is, says, "Voli, you've grown. You remember me, Frigg? I guess I should be glad, but I'm only confused. You stand side by side with the man who killed your son. I suppose you forgot the last time you allied with an enemy. That was different. But this time, there's only one man who has to answer for what he's done. Yeah, his fate was sealed a long time ago. He will get what's coming to him. You stand against him too. Then why do you attack us?" Voli, seeming a little more irritated, says, "Odin is not the only man who has to die, is he? Odin is the cause of all of this. To everyone's suffering. Odin is our common enemy, and if he is yours, then this fight is not needed. Help us stand against him." As Freya says this, she slightly lowers her bow, but Voli's expression becomes cold as he says, "And why would I help you when you refused to help me? You had your chance to stop him. And what did you do? You watched as he gained more power, as he destroyed more lives. Why would I help one monster replace another when I can just do this instead?" Voli turns around and walks towards Skull and Hati. The closer he gets, the more uneasy he makes the wolves feel. "These realms are too broken for you to fix, which is why I'm going to erase it all. The return to Ginnungagap, which means these dogs gotta die." Before he could even finish, Freya raises her bow and shoots at Voli. He doesn't even flinch as the arrow is deflected by something invisible. "You will not touch them. You think destroying the realms is going to solve anything? You have no idea of the harm this will cause, lad. You'll be worse than what Odin could ever be." Voli responds by saying, "There's nothing worse than what is. So, are you ready to die?" This is where Kratos will say that the burden is his. Freya initially refuses, then realizes she is needed elsewhere and leaves. Kratos says, "Freya is right. This battle is pointless." Voli responds by saying, "Kratos, they've told me a lot about you. I just had to see for myself." "So you're the god of war. Want to know what I'm the god of?" Voli lifts his hand and the spearhead appears out of purple energy. And this will mark the beginning of the Voli boss fight. Voli will come at you using the broken spearhead to do basic slash and thrust attacks. These consist of one 2-hit combo where he slashes at you from both directions, and also a 3-hit combo where he double stabs at you and finishes off with a wide slash. His health will have 10 bars, and this phase of the fight will only last for 2 bars. When the 2 bars are down, R3 will appear for you to engage in a cutscene where Voli tries to stab Kratos but is parried, making him drop the spearhead. Kratos decks Voli clean in the face, making him stumble back. Kratos goes to follow up with another, but is countered with an uppercut to the beard, which makes him stumble back. Voli rushes him. Kratos throws a right to try to catch Voli coming in, but he deflects it with his left hand and backfists him with the same hand, followed by a right palm strike and a left uppercut. Then, quickly summoning another spearhead with his left hand, he slashes at Kratos. Kratos manages to catch and hold the blade, which makes Voli jump and do a spinning sidekick, knocking Kratos back some meters. He looks up to see Voli leaping towards him with his blade. A quick time event pops up where you must press L1 to block his strike and toss him aside. Voli lands on his feet and dodges an incoming Draupnir spear. Voli, noticing what he just threw, says, "Hey, that's a new one you got there. Let's see if it can match up against mine." Voli takes his spearhead and expands it into a long, double-bladed silver spear. He lifts his spear up and spins it around before slamming it onto the ground, causing a massive purple shockwave. Kratos defends against it, but the shockwave causes every single bush in the area to be incinerated, allowing them to see the ground in this field, which consists of stone engravings covered by mossy grass. Here we'll have the boss fight continue, where Voli really starts using his abilities. Voli's 2-hit combo is upgraded into a 3-hit one. The first 2 hits he slashes at you using both ends of his spear, and the third hit will be a yellow circle attack where he thrusts at you. His 3-hit combo will also be changed. Instead of the third attack being a wide slash, it will be a wide sweep attack. If you are caught in the sweep attack, Kratos will fall to the ground, allowing Voli to get a guaranteed stab. Voli will pull the blade out of Kratos' chest, turning around and walking away as Kratos gets up. He'll have a red circle unblockable where he swipes his spear upward at you with one hand holding the end of his spear. If you are hit by this, you'll be launched into the air, allowing Voli to attach a rope/hook onto Kratos and yank him onto the ground, dealing more damage. Voli will have a charge attack where he quickly dashes forward, spinning the spear around. He does this a second time, being slightly closer to you, and finally dashes a third time, being within Kratos' hitbox and stabbing him with the spear. He will have a ranged attack, pulling out a bow from purple energy and shooting you with a shock arrow. If you are hit by this, you'll be stunned like before. Attempting to go Spartan Rage in this battle will be a bad idea, for Voli will have the ability to feed off of your rage and drain it drastically. Voli will taunt you while you're in this state. His health regenerates the more rage he feeds off of you, and if you don't cancel your Spartan Rage before he feeds off of all of it, you will be punished by getting some damage dealt to your health. His moveset, however, will not be the only thing you'll have to worry about. Sometimes when Voli is idle, or when you successfully defend against one of his attacks, you'll be hit by something invisible, with no hints whatsoever. Every time you are hit by this invisible force, a blue after image will form around Kratos temporarily. This is where the similarities to Heimdall will show up, with Mimir pleading to you the more you get hit. And just like Heimdall, in order to overcome this disadvantage, you have to throw the spear at him and press triangle to detonate. Not only will the spear blow up in his face, stunning him, but the impact of the spear shifts the very realm. A shockwave will emerge from Voli's position, and it will form purple particles around you in the air. And you notice that Voli's health bar turns into a different design. Then, as Voli is kneeling down, another Voli will appear and try to attack you, having all of the same moves. His health will be nowhere near as beefy, so you'll be able to quickly take him down. The original Voli will rise from the ground and say, "So you can see what I see." He then manifests an astral version of himself to fight alongside him. The astral version will do an identical attack to Voli before vanishing, and Voli will quickly follow up with a move of his own. At this point of the fight, Voli will start to say, "You're the first person to have the honor of seeing my world. You just achieved what Odin tried so desperately to on a whim," which makes it very sad that you'll be the last. Voli throughout the rest of this fight will occasionally summon his doppelganger, but not only will it take a form as a humanoid, but it will also appear as a wolf, having the standard dog moveset. These spirits will be quick,
However, if you manage to hit them before they hit you, it will cause a mini purple explosion, causing extra damage to the original volley. Take Voli's health all the way down to trigger a cutscene where Voli spins his spear around as Kratos summons his. They both clash the middle of their staffs together, trying to push each other back and forth. Kratos pushes Voli off, but he quickly returns and slashes downward, which is blocked with Kratos' spear. But on the other end of Voli's spear, he detaches the spearhead and stabs Kratos. But then, Kratos lifts his leg to do a Spartan kick, which sends Voli flying. The camera follows Voli, who manages to stick the landing and sees and dodges an incoming Draupnir. For a moment, everything is slow motion as the spear slowly passes the right side of his head. The spear detonates mid-air and blood splatters as the impact blows Voli's right ear off. Voli falls down and screams in pain, hand covering the right side of his face. With his right side being painted in red, Voli lays and rolls on the ground, breathing heavily. Kratos comes towards him as Voli gains control of his breathing. He says, "Enough." Voli, not hearing him, says, "What?" "Let the wolves go. Stop this hunt, and you may live." Voli begins to stand up slowly and says, "We walk the same path. We're enemies of Asgard, which means whoever walks from this has the honor of killing Odin. That is a path you walk alone." "You don't have a choice! Odin's already made his move. There's only one way to stop him. We all want to stop what he's doing, but not like this. Destroying the balance, destroying the realms, how does that help anyone? This is madness." Voli begins to glow a purple aura, and he says, "No, this is Ragnarok." Voli's aura blasts all of his surroundings, making Kratos push back. They both ready themselves for the final phase of the fight. In this second phase of the boss fight, Voli will have a new moveset. He charges to you swiftly, ready to strike at you with the spear, but once he's reached striking distance, a realm shift will activate, affecting only him. While he's in this slow motion state, a purple form of his arm and weapon will appear from his body and does a strike at you in full speed. After the strike is completed, the form will disappear and the realm shift deactivates, and Voli will do the same attack as the purple form. Voli will have a new unblockable where he takes a step back before quickly transforming into a black wolf with purple eyes leaping at you for a taste. If you are hit by this, Voli will gnaw at your arm, depleting health. Mass circle to have Kratos throw the mutt onto the ground and kick him back into his humanoid state. If you dodge the dog attack beforehand, he will slide onto the ground and quickly revert back to his human state. Voli will have the same 3-hit combo which ends in a yellow circle thrust, but this time after the thrust, he will do a step back into another thrust to counter and throw you off of any of your potential counters. But he can also mix up his step back attack. Instead of doing a thrust, he can also transform into his wolf form again. He'll have a new 2-hit combo where he does a spinning back kick into a tornado kick. If you parry these, Voli will be vulnerable in the air for juggles and potentially air combos until eventually regaining his footing. He'll have the same unblockable launch attack, but this time he will run up to you and then jump up into the air. When he jumps, he'll leave a purple after image on the ground to do the launch attack towards you, sending you to meet Voli in the air, where he'll be able to punish you with an airstrike. This combo consists of a spinning slash that when you're hit by it will send you slamming back onto the ground. He will then have another attack where he lifts his spear upward to do a downward stab. But right when he lifts up, a realm shift is activated, affecting only him. The upper body of his purple form appears and does a sweep attack with the spear. If you are caught, you obviously fall down, and the realm shift will deactivate, allowing Voli to stab down at you with full force. Voli will also have a Spartan Rage ability of his own. He'll have both of his arms wide out, and he'll create a purple hue in the environment. His health bar will once again change into a different design in this form, and he will of course be stronger and faster. And of course, the spear will do the most damage to this health bar and get him out of this rage ability the quickest. During this phase of the boss fight, our characters will be a little more talkative. Voli will say things like, "So you're okay with killing everyone else, yet you have a problem with killing Odin? What's one more god? We do not seek vengeance. Then why are you fighting? Does Odin not deserve to die?" He will then say things like, I want to listen to the sound as the walls crumble. I want to see the sky bleed.
Then towards the later half of the fight, he'll say,
If the thought of that somehow scares you so much, then just let me kill you. Leave the burden to me.
Kratos and Mimir will try to reason with him a little bit more, but it doesn't work. Once Voli's health is depleted, another cutscene will emerge. Voli grabs onto Kratos, his hands emitting a purple energy. Kratos struggles against it until it causes a small blue explosion, which blows both of them back. For a moment, Kratos looks down at his hands and sees a fading blue energy. Mimir hurry up and warns him as he sees Voli get up and make a run for it towards the wolves in a desperate attempt to kill them. Kratos pulls out the Blaze of Chaos and tosses it towards his back. A blade stabs onto Voli, making him fall. He drags him across the ground and tosses him against a tree. Kratos does not let up. Equipping his Draupnir, he uses it to stab Voli in the stomach and pin him against that tree. Voli does not give up, however, still trying to attack Kratos even in that position, forcing Kratos to punch Voli in the face repeatedly until he stops. Mimir then tries to yell out brother, but Kratos continues. Mimir then yells even louder, which actually gets to Kratos and makes him stop. Kratos then backs up a little to take a look at Voli's body, which is now limp and lifeless. Mimir then says, he's already gone. They look down on the ground and notice that Voli dropped a notebook. Kratos kneels down and picks it up. Kratos turns his attention and says, the wolves, and goes over to free Skull and Hati. While he's doing this, you'll notice that the ground is starting to shake again, and golden sparkles are starting to draw themselves once again in the sky. Once Kratos frees Skull and Hati, they immediately get up and fly away. Kratos then gets up and begins to head back to the group without saying a word, walking past Voli's body. But before he can even leave the field area, he hears Voli's voice once again say, I thought that I'd be angry if I lost to you. Kratos quick turns to Voli, his body still lifeless against the tree, but next to him is an astral form of himself sitting crisscross on the ground, looking up at his body. Voli takes a look at his hand and says, I feel no more rage. I finally understand. You will carry on my vengeance. Kratos responds, no, your vengeance has come to an end. Wrong. As long as Asgard and the realms remain, it will never end. Because those who bleed the world must drown in its blood, but at the cost of others, the cost of everything. That is how it must be. Do us all a favor. Don't lie to yourself. Don't run from yourself. Play your part and embrace it. Because if you don't, someone else will. With that, Voli's astral form fades away into purple particles. Mimir reminds Kratos that they have to hurry up and catch up with Freya to help them rescue the Celestial King. You will reach the edge of your current island, and you'll have to use your wings again, assisted by air tunnels to navigate onto another island. In the distance while flying, you can see smoke and flames rising up. Once you land, everything will play out the same as the original when you go and rescue Freya. The only difference is you're rescuing Mani instead. Kratos sees them come out of the first building holding an injured person. Then they catch up to take out the forces of Asgard. You fight alongside Freya, Freyr, Hildisvini, and Brock, who says, what took you so long? This combat encounter will be the same, but you will notice that you will have a brand new relic to play around with. This relic will allow Kratos to fight alongside his astral form. Every time you do one attack against an enemy, an after image of Kratos' arm and whatever weapon he was using will appear right after and mimic the same attack. This will simply be another way to stack up damage, with the after image's damage being only 10% of the originals. After you deal with the Einherjar and they manage to get that door open, you will see Mani for the first time. He'll have tattoos on his neck, which will barely be visible, similar to Angerboda, except they'll be blue. He'll be super skinny and wear a faded in colored robe, which is torn on his left shoulder, which you can see more tattoos from. He has dark hair wrapped in a pony or warrior's tail, but will be filled with white streaks. His eyes will also glow a bright blue. Kratos will offer to carry him, and this is where we'll have the running section with all of them trying to reach the river. This section will be similar to the original, except it will have a few extra scenes, such as Brock trying to get some action, and also Tyr will show up, but he only plays defense, blocking incoming projectiles with his shield. Freya will be fighting alongside his sister as more of his team begin to show up. Atreus also shows up, but he'll be in his bird form, dodging any enemy or environmental attacks. But he'll quickly revert back into his human form and start shooting enemies with the arrow. Freya will notice that and say,
"Where did you learn to do that? Long story. Lots of practice."
They fight their way all the way to the river. Freya pulls something out of his back pocket and throws it into the river. It transforms into Skjoldmir, which will be slightly bigger in order to fit everyone onto. With haste, they hop on the board and sail away from the battle. The river eventually runs out and they ride into the sky. Everyone thinks that they've made it and that they're finally safe, until the wyverns show up for some last minute playtime. They prove to be too fast to hit with their bows as they shoot lightning from almost every angle. Björgir just barely manages to block an attack with his sword. He looks around and sees everyone struggling with the ambush. He slowly rises to stand up. He sees an incoming wyvern and he is completely ready to honor Vanaheim. But then he is shoved out the way by Kratos, who leaps off of the boat with his classic blades in each hand. He stabs into the wyvern's neck, who moves around uncontrollably. He ignites his blades of chaos with fire and it slams onto the other wyvern. The blades explode, blowing Kratos into the air. Both of the wyverns fall out of the sky. Kratos uses his wings to steer him into the direction of the boat, but he is quickly losing momentum. He falls just barely behind the boat and almost misses it, but his hand is caught by Freya. Freya says,
"You didn't tell me you could fly?"
He then pulls Kratos back on board. Freya tells everyone that they're almost there and to stay on the lookout. She then goes over to tend to Mani's wounds. But then Freya screams in excitement, saying,
"Woo! That was perfect. How about that, Tyr? Looks like you were wrong."
"It wasn't without luck, but perhaps. Now, we really have to celebrate."
"Really, Yngvi? You're thinking about that when our celestial king is injured?"
"Oh, come on. Your Highness will be fine." Freya sighs out of annoyance. "We got the moon back. No one died. Aren't you all happy?"
"I'm happy."
Yeah, just hurry up and take us back to solid ground.
"I'm going back to doing what I do best. Next time, fight your own wars."
They then make it back to the camp. Freya quickly looking to celebrate, while Freya still tends to Mani with the help of Lunda. Everyone starts to wind down from the mission. Freya then goes up to Kratos and Atreus and says, "Hey, just wanted to say thanks. Probably couldn't have done it without you. You're welcome to this realm in our camp anytime, as long as you don't piss off my sister again." Atreus responds saying, "It was our pleasure. Happy to help." Freya then shoves Atreus saying, "You don't gotta be so formal anymore." He then laughs and goes back with the rest of his team to celebrate. Atreus turns over to his father and says, "Freya told me why you stayed behind. Voli showed up." "You were right. He did not serve Odin, but still, he left me no choice. He was going to kill Skull and Hati. We did it. We saved the realm. We got the moon back." Kratos then pulls out Voli's notebook. Atreus says, "What is that?" "It was his. Maybe you don't know what to do with it." Kratos gives Atreus the notebook. They both nod their heads in agreement and turn their attention towards Freya's camp. And this will mark the end of part 9 of the God of War Ragnarok rewrite. I would like to make a quick apology to my boy Jerry. I'm sorry to disappoint. I love that idea, but in this version of the story, he had to go. Stay tuned for part 10, which is coming soon and will be the finale of the first game, where I guess you'll see.